Oh dear, we're there again. Look at your screen. It's a sea of red. Bitcoin is puking, altcoins are down double digits. Twitter is in a full-blown panic mode. Or is it the artist formerly known as Twitter, now X? And they're all screaming, the Trump trade is dead. The cycle is definitely over. You feel that knot in your stomach, don't you? That is exactly what they want you to feel. But who is they? Well, turn off the charts for just 1 second. Stop watching this liquidation cascade in front of your very eyes, and you have to question every single decision you've ever made financially. You are just watching the noise, not what we should be looking for. You are missing, my friends, the signal. So, my name is Justin Banton, and welcome back to another episode of the House of Trade. Share, like, and subscribe. Anyway, now that we have the formalities out of the way, let's talk about these markets. My goodness. While the market is flushing out the leverage and everybody is freaking out about today's price action, yet Bitcoin down 8%, Sol down 20%, these other meme coins down even worse, right? The real game is being played behind the closed doors. And here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody on Wall Street really wants to say out loud, because it really does sound like the epitome of lunacy. It sounds crazy. But the crash you are seeing today, it doesn't matter, because the fix is already in. Jerome Powell is effectively kaput. He's gone. Goodbye. Arrivederci. See you later. Ciao for now. Hasta luego. Oh, physically, yeah, he's still there for sure. He's sitting in the Air Force building, but operationally, no. He's a hologram. He's barely there, and he has very little influence. The real monetary policy isn't being decided in Washington, D.C. It is being decided in a gold-plated dining room in Palm Beach, Florida. What am I talking about? Well, we are witnessing the death of central bank independence and the birth of what I am calling, and what many other are calling, the shadow Fed. But I prefer my terminology, the holographic Federal Reserve. So why is the market dumping today, notwithstanding everything I just aforementioned? Well, maybe it's fear, maybe it's profit taking, or maybe, just maybe, it's the final shakeout before the Mar-a-Lago Accord goes truly live, goes nuclear, goes stratospheric, because the new policy isn't data dependent. The new policy is print it all, ad infinitum, ad nauseum. Let go of the faucet and print it all. Today, we are going to explain why this dip is actually a gift. And who are we to look a gift horse in the mouth, right? We are going to talk about Kevin Hassett, the shadow chair. We're going to explain why Steven Miran, terrifying blueprint for the Treasury, is actually going to be what is de jure, de facto, whatever you want to characterize it as, right? And we're going to show you, I don't know how I'm saying where, I'm going to show you why stablecoins are actually the secret weapon to save the US debt market, and why they need crypto to succeed, not to fail, regardless of what the price is doing today. So let's dive in, and let's dive in deep to the new regime. Okay, let me take a breath. Let's look at the chessboard while everyone else is staring at the red candles, not knowing what to do. Blood in the street, only the few here are actually taking advantage of what we're seeing, right? Trump has made it very clear, and I hate to parrot Trump, but the guy is in charge, the commander of graft, the commander of grift. He is deciding where the liquidity goes, way more than I'm comfortable with. But hey, when there's a bubble, I go into it. So he thinks the chair should be, let's say, flexible. He believes the president should have a say in rates, which is crazy. Now everyone is screaming, you can't do that. You can't do that. The Fed is independent. So they are not really going to fire power, because that's too messy, and that would actually endanger the criticality of federal independence, or at least ostensibly the visage of it, right? The actual patina of it. They are just going to make him irrelevant. Instead of firing him, he's going to become just an accoutrement, an accessory, something that's irrelevant. And that's where we have to enter with our friend, stage left, stage up, stage down, Kevin Hassett, former economic advisor, probable future Treasury heavy hitter, and currently the guy whispering in the king's ear, right? The king's ear. Hassett has been floating the idea of a shadow Fed chair, someone who announces what the president thinks rates should be, effectively bullying the Fed into actually real submission, right? But Hassett isn't just a muscle. To understand why today's crash is a buying opportunity, we need to look at the actual architect, the overall macro designer. We need to talk about our dear friend, our nemesis, our bête noire, Steven Miran. Now, Steven Miran is a former Treasury official, and quite frankly, he is quite a good macroeconomist. He wrote a paper that is essentially the Bible for the incoming administration. Now, I don't mean to offend any holy people, but that's how they're looking at it in macroeconomic circles. The thesis is simple, and it goes like this. Treasury number one, Treasury dominance above all else and all others. Here is the problem that the US actually faces. They have $36 trillion in debt, and they are paying over $1 trillion a year purely in interest. Can you imagine that? You don't even meet on the principal, you're just paying the interest. That's crazy. That's like a predatory loan shark, like having a field day with your money. So if Jerome Powell keeps rates high to fight that inflation, the US government basically goes bankrupt paying the interest. I know if you're the hegemonic entity of the world and you control the world reserve currency, you can kind of print into your heart's desire and not really worry about it until you actually have to start worrying about it, right? So the market is crashing today because it fears interest rates probably may stay too high. It fears the Fed won't cut. But Miran's plan, and the plan of the shadow Fed, flips the script entirely. It's a new paradigm shift. Instead of the Fed dictating to the economy, the Treasury dictates to the Fed in some kind of like incestuous mixture, interwoven and cause of monetary and fiscal shenanigans. But how? How, I hear you ask, without my complicated metaphor right there? Well, first, you have to envisage a world where we abandon the 2% inflation target. They're not going to say that publicly, but 3% is the new 2. Why? Because inflation melts away the debt. That's what they need. They got a huge debt. Having an inflation makes it whittle away a little bit more. It's actually a beautiful thing that most central bankers will admit to loving, right? Second, yield curve control, invented by our friends in Japan. The Treasury will manipulate the bond market to keep rates low, regardless of inflation. And third, the ultra dovish pivot. The new Fed chair, whoever is picked to replace Powell in 2026 or shadow him for now, will have one mandate: keep the liquidity flowing so the government can spend. And this is the Mar-a-Lago Accord. It's a handshake? It's a handshake deal that says we're going to run the economy hot. We are going to devalue the dollar, and we are going to pump asset prices to the moon to hide this debt crisis, to increase this productivity gap, and not to increase it, but to address it, and to really keep us as the hegemonic entity that we are, America, and what we've become accustomed to, right? So let the tourists sell their crypto today. Let them do it. If you're here ephemerally, if you're here fleetingly, if you're only a mercurial buyer, sell your crypto. Sell it to the people who are holding it for the long term. Because the shadow Fed hasn't even turned on the printer yet in full force. So, how do we do this? How do I explain a little bit more, but using an analogy and a narrative, which I've become accustomed to doing, and I hope you enjoy me doing it. So to understand how this actually works and why this is a temporary dip, I need you to imagine a scene in your mind, okay? Let's go to a steakhouse in London or in DC. It's 10 p.m., right, at the steakhouse. We're sitting at the table, and who's there with us? Old school Powell. He's eating a salad. He's worried about today's market drop. He's worried about the Phillips curve. Of course, all of those things, right? Sitting across from him is the shadow. Let's call him, I don't know, something original, like Kevin Hassett. He's eating a 32-ounce porterhouse steak. Rare, bloody, right? Powell, what's he going to say to Kevin? Kevin, look at today's markets. Crypto is crashing. Bond yields are spiking. I can't cut rates aggressively. If I do, inflation comes back. Now, I don't know why he's a parochial Englishman, but that's what the action I can do, right? So what does Kevin say, chewing that succulent steak? He says, Jerome, look at me. Do I look like I care about the price of Dogecoin today? We have to refinance 10 trillion of debt in the next 18 months, bad boy. If you keep rates at 5%, the interest payments will even to the entire defense budget. Now, I'm not going to continue with these accents because that was truly atrocious. I hope you're laughing at me because I'm laughing at myself. But what does Powell say in response? My mandate is full employment and price stability. Kevin, your mandate is whatever we say it is. Okay, the Texan voice is back, I don't know. Here's the new plan, Jerome. We call it Fiscal Dominance. The Treasury is going to spend that money. We're going to spend it. We're going to issue the bonds, and you're going to buy them, and you're going to shut up about it too. Or you're going to have to lower rates so others can buy them. What does Powell say in return? Well, but that's monetization of the debt, dear sir. That turns the dollar into the Turkish lira. We can't do that. Jerome. Nobody cares about the lira if stocks go up by 20% next year, boy. We're going to run this economy so hot it melts that debt away from in front of your eyes. We're going to debase the currency to save the sovereign. It's the Steven Miran playbook, if you don't know. You're either on the train or you're tied to the checks. Now, I've had enough of myself. I'm hanging my head in shame, but I hope you get the gist of it, right? The conversation I just made up isn't fiction. It's the subtext of every economic report you are now seeing, right? The market is crashing today because it thinks Powell is still in charge. It thinks higher for longer is real. But the adults in the room, they're gone. The new bosses, they want a few things, paramount of which are growth. They want cheap money. Who doesn't? And they don't care if your grocery bill goes up 4% a year, as long as those asset prices fly. Because the unfortunate truth is that the K-shaped economy, this bifurcation of expenditures and incomes, the majority of the growth and spending comes actually from the top 10%. And it's all of the people on the bottom who are truly struggling. And they're not the real marginal pushers of GDP or business growth, right? But hey, that's another political theory aside. This is why sometimes bad news is actually good news. Again, right? Crypto crashing, great. Flush the leverage out so we can pump it up later. Economy slowing, great. Cut the rates so we can invigorate it and push it up again sometime soon. But wait, if they print all of this money, who's actually going to buy the debt? Because China ain't buying, Japan is selling, so who is the sucker at the poker table? Who is the greater fool? Who's the person smacking the empty piñata? I don't know where that analogy came from, but it worked in my head. Okay, enter the stable coin conspiracy. Now, this part of the conspiracy, it explains a lot. It explains why crypto, despite falling heavily today, is the most important asset class in the next 4 years and possibly beyond. Why has the new administration pivoted to being pro-crypto? Is it because they love freedom? Is it because they love decentralization? Is it because they love a transparent ledger? Is it because they love the scarcity of Bitcoin? No. It's because they need liquidity. They need bundles of liquidity. Look at stablecoins, Tether, USDC. What are they? They are just basically digital dollars. But what backs them up? Well, US Treasury bills, right? Tether is currently one of the largest non-governmental, non-sovereign holders of US debt in the entire world. They own more US debt than Germany. Now that's mad. They also own more gold than like South Korea, right? But that's another story. Check my video out about that actually. Tether USDT. I've done a video all about that. Not many views, but hopefully you go over there now. Anyway, I digress. The shadow Fed has realized something absolutely ecstatically brilliant. If you regulate stablecoins, if you make them legal, compliant, ubiquitous, omnipotent, omnipresent, everywhere, you create a massive, voracious, insatiable buyer for US sovereign government debt. Now, why does this matter? Well, if the world moves to using US dollar stablecoins for payments, that creates trillions of dollars of demand for US Treasury bills. It solves the who buys the debt problem because you have to buy to transact, right? The conspiracy theory is this. The administration isn't embracing crypto to help you get rich. They don't care about you. They're embracing crypto to create a digital euro-dollar system where private companies like Tether, like Circle, absorb the US debt that China now refuses to buy. And if you think about it, it's actually brilliant in its Machiavellianistic way of game theory. It's actually quite brilliant, right? And if they are thinking about that, then Trump is playing 17-dimensional critic, right? Chess, 100%, right? So when you see Bitcoin dropping 5%, 10%, Zoom out, right? Because remember, volatility, when over a long enough time period, actually sums out sometimes to zero. The Treasury needs the ecosystem to survive. They could not let crypto die, because if crypto dies, the demand for stablecoins dies. And if stablecoins die, nobody buys the US debt anymore. It's the perfect symbiotic and maybe pseudo-parasitic relationship. Crypto gets regulatory clarity, so the price eventually goes up, right? The Treasury gets a permanent buyer for its debt, so you'll still stay down. Everyone is a winner. And this is why the Mar-a-Lago Accord includes a Bitcoin strategic reserve and pro-stablecoin laws. It's not ideology. It's about keeping the debt Ponzi going for another 4 years. 4 more years. 4 more years. But it is in another guise entirely, right? So, in conclusion, how does this lead to the everything melt up? And then how does this lead to you having to reassess your Bitcoin or your crypto holdings over an elongated time period and not through the temporary volatility distribution that we're seeing in recent times? What does it mean for your bleeding portfolio? Essentially, it means stay strong. If the shadow Fed is real, if central bank independence is truly actually dead, if the target is 3% inflation and endless, unending, unrelenting liquidity, that only means a few things for risk assets and for high beta assets like Bitcoin. We are heading for everything melting up. And do you want to be that person who's sold out on a temporary dip before you truly experience the extravaganza, the opulence of the everything melt up rally? Today's crash, it's just a feature, right? It's not a bug. If it flushes out the weak hands, then it resets the leverage. So, first, we have to think on a longer time frame. Secondly, we have to actually massage out that volatility so that we're not too over leveraged. We have to maintain the understanding that we're here for the long term, because the money is truly made on the long-term terms, on the paradigm shift. And that is why you must stay strong. That's all I've got for you today. I hope my points come across. If you do like my videos, like, share, and subscribe. My name is Justin Banton. This is the House of Trade. Ciao for now. Good luck out there.